explain it. It doesn't mean anything except in terms of experience. Beyond the plane of pure, it doesn't mean anything. But it's not a coincidence that the ancient Indians believed that Krishna died on a cross, that Krishna went down to hell for 3 days and 3 nights, and then he rose again and returned to the garden of Mathura, where he met his favourite disciple, Arjuna. And you have the same story in Christianity, where Jesus is believed to come back from the dead, from hell, 3 days after being crucified, in which he goes to the Garden of Gethsemane and meets his favourite disciple, John. How is it that a story out of Palestine is exactly the same as a story out of India? Well, I postulate that because so few people could read or write, it would be quite reasonable to expect that anybody writing a religion or a treatise or some kind of tracts could have vast influence over millions of people over thousands of years. Because people wouldn't know what was being written except those who were attending to the stories, and it would take centuries for people to hear of the story. And of course, because the story claims that it is unique, people to this day believe that the Jesus Christ story is unique, and to this day Christians posit that this man was a unique saviour God for humanity, which I think is a load of rubbish. It is no coincidence that in the 325, during the end of 100 years of Roman civil war, the Roman emperor at the time, who took control of the empire, Constantine, declared that he wanted a new religion across the Roman Empire. And he commissioned the discussion and meetings, it's the Horus, of Tammuz, of Krishna, of Prometheus, of Apollo, of Mercury. And after 1.5 years of voting and arguing, it got down to 6 gods. And Constantine said, I've had enough of this.
It's Nation of Islam and Chacha.
Paris, I've had enough of this. I'm going to declare that there is a new one God for the Roman Empire. And he took the Celtic god of this country, called Isus, who was worshipped as a saviour god, and he took Krishna from India, and he invented a character called Isus Krishna, who then evolved into Jesus Christ through language. The New Testament, most of it was written some 70 to 150 years after the events were supposed to have happened. But I don't have to tell you that if we all came back 70 years' time or 150 years' time to this part of the park, none of you would be able to remember what I've been speaking about today, any more than I can really remember exactly what I said 5 months ago, because that's how the human mind works.
What time in the morning he talks about
out of the
a lot of the religious stories
together, called the New
similarities
Testament, in which they invented this character
all over the world,
Jesus Christ or Jesus Krishna. The idea that a man walks on water is utterly absurd. It's ridiculous. Until you possibly think that it's more a metaphorical thing for saying that
these things saying if you go to different cultures around the world, they all got their own stories, and they all similar to the religious stories in the Bible and the Quran.
Also has glaring faults,
trying to say it's a fabricated
glaring omissions, which is amazing that most people, or most Muslims, don't even think about it. Even to this day, Muslims don't know who wrote the Quran, they don't know when it was written, and they don't know who it was written by, which is pretty bizarre, considering they've been venerated as such an important book. The 3 most basic things. Herodotus wrote about the pagan worship of the Muslims 1,000 years before the birth of Mohammed. There used to be 4 statues around the Kaaba stone in Saudi Arabia. And those 4 statues, 3 of them were of naked women, and 1 of them was a naked man. And the naked women were called Alat, Al-Uzza, and Al-Mana. The naked man was Allah. No surprise that when they put together this religion and they regarded all statues, artwork, paintings and drawings as demonic and evil and pagan and wrong, they demolished those statues. And they decided that there's only one God, and that God is called Allah. The curious, amusing thing about Muslims saying Allah Akbar is, none of them will actually tell you what Allah is. They don't even know. But what they're really saying is, naked man is great, or a naked statue is great, which is really quite amusing. But this seems to sum up the ludicrousy of what Jews believe, of what Muslims believe, and what Christians believe. The very basics of any religion should stand up to some kind of examination. And in my opinion, Judaism, Christianity, Islam stand up to no examination at all that even gets near 50% in terms of the historical analysis of what these meant and what these words meant. For instance, the word Messiah in Egyptian actually translates as crocodile fat. And it makes me laugh at the Seventh-day Adventist parade here, as they have done for years, and they say Messiah has come.
Uncle Jamal will be shouting them down still. I didn't see Uncle Jamal last week.
They were in a stage where they had sort of little diagrams and glyphs and squiggles.
And I need for our sister.
The alphabet of the Greeks again, advanced writing by essentially Cadmus inventing the alphabet. The alphabet is a Greek word. They decided to take those rather rudimentary lines written by the Sumerians and form them into letters that we all recognise as A, B, C. That in itself takes thousands of years to actually change the consciousness of humanity from being able to speak to being able to read, write and speak. And I put it to you that the reason these religions became so successful and so popular, both Christianity and Islam, was partly because they were written in books. So it was like, wow, you can read, you can write. Wow, you must be a god, you must be incredible, because I can't read and write. So obviously, because something is written in a book, it says A, B, C, X, Y, Z, it opens up the situation for polemical conflict. If something says, this is the word of God, and there's no other word of God, this is bound to set people against one another. And if there's one thing that Christianity, and to a lesser extent Islam, I don't know so much, is that Christianity has not been... Hey, I'll ask Robert, go on.
Mr. Speaker, whatever you are saying is intellectual. But who are you to tell these believers?
Well, that's what I'm telling them, that they may believe that, in the beginning was the word, but actually in the beginning was the drawing. In the beginning was art. In the beginning was sculpture. In the beginning were banners. The very first proselytizers of the Roman Catholic Church went around with pictures, statues and banners. And then when they got, and this took a process of maybe 200 or so years that was ongoing, then when they'd got enough people who were reading and actually could recite tracts of the New Testament, then they started outlawing statues, banners, pictures, and regarded them as inspired by demons. And people would have been very suspicious. They would have, believed bad weather. People believed that bad weather was, God judging people, that it was grey and raining and damp, and so people would think God is, punishing us for something. Plutarch recorded that people used to worship the sun, and they believed that the sun was the eye of God looking down upon you. And it was an individual by whose name I can't remember at the moment, who actually posited the notion, which still holds sway today, that God knows every thought, every action, and every movement you take and you don't take. And that at the moment of death, you're going to have an inventory of what you've done and what you haven't done and what is good and what is bad. I think it's a ludicrous state of mind that intelligent human beings believe in such superstitious nonsense. Absolute nonsense. That such a thing, aka the Day of Judgment, still holds people in their minds.
Believing keeps people ignorant, and ignorance is bliss. And they feel comfortable because they don't have to use the brain.
Well, of course, that's what organised...
So let them be happy like that.
Well,
they're idiot.
This is an area of free speech. I'm not here to convert anybody to Christianity or Islam. It is an area of free speech.
Rationalism, you can't convert people.
Well, to me, it's common sense, but unfortunately, it isn't yet common enough. It isn't common enough. The idea of praying, in my opinion, is utter nonsense. I mean, to believe you're actually having a conversation with a living being. Are you listening to me? And of course, they think it's up in the sky. Because what is up there? Well, radiation's up there for a start. So if Mohammad went up in the air, as the Muslims believe, at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is a site dedicated to his death, then how did he get through the radiation? And we all know there is eternity out there. We all know there are galaxies and solar systems and planets. And in comparison, we're just like specks of dust in size and in relativity. And yet people didn't know that, of course, back in the day. They didn't know what the horizon was. The word horizon actually comes from the Egyptian saviour god Horus. People didn't know. If we were living in ancient Greece and you had coins, you would have coins in your pocket, quite possibly of Hercules. It would say Hercules, the saviour, written on the coin. And you would go to a temple in Greece or in the Greek Empire and you would worship Hercules as your saviour. As I said a moment ago, the Greeks were conquered by the Romans, so now you have Jesus as your saviour. It's the same kind of nonsense, because nobody actually worships Hercules anymore, but you can be sure back in the day there would have been thousands of devotees from as far away as India and northern Egypt who would have been followers of Hercules because of the conquest of the Greeks. It's the conquest of the mind that is the apparent thing today. And nothing actually happens when these Jews, Christians and Muslims, they go to a church, a mosque or a synagogue. You might as well go into McDonald's and say, Ronald McDonald is the saviour of the world. Give me my burger and Diet Coke now. It's just as ridiculous. But I don't understand why people go to religious meetings. They're so boring anyway.
No, but it is also
They're so boring. None of us want to go when we're young. When we're teenagers, we don't want to go. I had to go to church when I was at private school when I was a little boy. I hated it. It used to ruin Sundays. Would run around and get into fights and play rugby and football like any normal little lad. And of course, when I left school, I've only been to church twice. That's just for family meetings. And to me, when I go into churches once in a while and watch it's like watching some sort of weird Hollywood movie. And all these men wearing these strange clothes, well, they chose those clothes to impress upon people. Because back in the day, most people didn't have more than the clothes on their back. And they would be grubby, old and dirty. So you see someone wearing a beautiful sort of red and white or a black and white cloak with a dog's collar and a hat shaped like a fish's hat, incidentally. That's not by accident. The Pope wears a fish's hat. And if you research astrology, you'll see the connection. And this was all very impressive. That's why the fellow over there is wearing his hat. It's to create this. Oh, he's a holy man. He's the most average, boring man at Hyde Park. Nothing ever happens. There's no flash of lightning or some thunder. There's no man in the sky, or woman for that matter. We have, we have free will, but I don't remember my free will ever being taken, which is the notion that as an amusement. But as I said early on in my speech, it was worshipped in Syria. Tammuz was worshipped as the saviour of the Syrian people. Prometheus, the saviour of the Caucasian people. Horus, the saviour of the Egyptian people. Krishna, the saviour of the Indian people. Mithras, the saviour of the Persian people. Baldur, the saviour of the Scandinavian people. Hesus, the saviour of whatever the people were called, because we English didn't exist in that time, whatever the people were called, the ancient people who lived on this land some 2,000 years ago. But what these things have in common is that they were all actually worshipping the sun. Plutarch wrote about it, how people worship the sun, and they observed. The experts who decided to observe the sun, they noticed that it moved up in the sky, or it appeared to move up in the sky. They didn't see it moving up, they didn't see any wings, but they assumed this must be something wow, because it was there about an hour or 2 hours ago. And of course, this is a time when people didn't even have a concept of an hour being 60 minutes. But now it's up there, and I'll come back this evening and it'll be down there. And over a period of time, they worked out that the sun at its highest point at midday was roughly on the 21st of June.
Because you got a channel,
give or take a few hours. And on its lowest point during the day, but at its lowest point in winter was on the 21st.
If you look up Nick Atheist, go to the
and it's no coincidence that on the 21st of December, behind the sun in the northern hemisphere are a set of stars shaped in a crucifix. And it is no coincidence that for 3 days, from the 21st to 22nd, well, the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 24th, the sun stays exactly at its highest point in midwinter for those 3 days. And then on the 25th, it's slightly higher. And that is the erroneous belief that a saviour baby boy was born, and then on the third day he rose from the dead. And they concocted this idea of putting together a saviour baby boy with the observation of the sun's highest point in midwinter and that on the third day it rose again from the dead. People actually believe, Plutarch recorded this. You can go into a bookshop and you can buy a volume of Plutarch's writings. People believe the sun literally died at night time. They believe that everything was dark, the trees died, the animals, most of them were not nocturnal, so they would be sleeping, and people wouldn't go out in the dark. There wasn't electricity or lights to see your way around. So of course they believed it was like the darkness. And you have this written into Egyptology. You have the eternal battle between Horus and Set. It's depicted in Egyptian art, it's written in Egyptian books that Horus was the light giver, the light bearer. Horus was the sun, Horus was the saviour that saved you every morning when he arose out at the horizon. And then when dark came, Set would take over and win the battle. And so there was this eternal battle between light and dark, which has been wrapped up as good and evil. But of course, it isn't good or evil. Although people believe bad things happen at night time, good things happen
like everyone with the different viewers get something.
Bad things happen during the daytime. And that is also the backdrop of why you have this, you know, people talk about the light.
That's the white Sarah.
And a lot of this in the New Age. It's just sunlight. We can't see the sun today because we might be able to see a bit of it because of the clouds. People didn't have any understanding of precipitation. They didn't know why it rained. We all have a general understanding that it's the mixture of cold and hot air, and eventually the chemistry causes a reaction and the rain comes down. We have an understanding why rivers don't run out of water.
Brother.
We have an understanding that really these religions are at best looked upon as amusements. When people shout Allah Akbar or Jesus love. It's just a load of rubbish in my opinion.
What time you man coming down today?
I'm okay with it. It's all part of free speech. Anybody got any questions?
I was taking questions now.
Well, no, some people can be... shut up. Exactly.
The heckler is regional.
If someone tells me to shut up, I walk away. And if he follows me down the street, I'll say, go away or I'll kill him. No, you take that very seriously.
I think, you know, the idea that there is a
first story real quick.
It's a misnomer.
Asman got the crowd now. You got the crowd now still. Yogi, respect. Content over nothing.
He started talking. No manners. Anyway, so ladies and gentlemen,
I'm just trying to heckle the things still.
we Muslims, thank you very much. Okay, madam, let me tell you, our Islam, you are in Speaker's Corner, madam. In Speaker's Corner, I am a Muslim speaker. Madam, let me tell you. No, he got the madam. Women. Okay, thank you very much. I'll talk about women. Okay, no problem about women. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. Madam, thank you very much. Women right. Excuse me, listen to the ladies, okay? Now, there's a saying. There is a saying. Ladies first. So be quiet. Ladies first. So let us listen. Okay, excuse me. We are good humans, we are good men.
Ladies should be allowed to have 4 husbands.
You're still, what do you mean 4 husbands? Come on.
I said the ladies should be allowed 4 husbands, you know.
Women, nothing else. Every time he
the lady saying in the comments,
he just talks about women. Who are women? Women are honorable. Women, excuse me. Can you see a psychiatrist? This is Speaker's Corner. This is not a psychiatrist corner. Okay, so if you are a psychiatrist, then you need to adjust yourself. Anyway, about women, madam.
The Nation of Islam, I'm going to go to them in a minute. So my main camera's filming them, you get me, sir? When they just catch some other footage, don't make sense to film them live and on the main camera.
He said, what am I trying to say? So, what am I trying to say? He said, why don't you speak in English? Am I speaking in Japanese, ladies and gentlemen? Am I speaking in Chinese, ladies and gentlemen? I'm not even speaking in my own language. Go back to school and learn English. then you will understand what is English. Okay, anyway, or maybe wash your ears. Yeah, you don't recognize English language. Okay, maybe your ears are anti-English.
Man, like, as
They
a
don't
Ishmael.
recognize English language.
Like, that's right.
Okay. Oh, what that? Okay, madam, women, let me tell you. Our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as I said, he was born in Mecca. He was an Arab. Before Islam, the Arabs, they used to love, they used to like having sons. But daughters, when they had daughters, they didn't like it. And you know, they even supposing they had 2 daughters, 3 daughters, or 4 daughters. Sometimes they used to
Crazy, don't
pick
call
one
me
of
to
those
tell
daughters and provide her good food, treat her very well, more better than the other daughter. And then when she was, let's say about 6 years, 7 years old,
Mr. Pro,
the father would have his daughter nicely
you need to
dressed
come
up.
pronounce your name for me still, car.
And
I'm
he
gonna
would
call you
take
Mr.
the
Pro.
daughter with him.
No homo.
And when he got near a water well, he used to tell his daughter, this is not fiction. This is not
He's saying
story.
honorable man, you don't like this one.
This is the truth.
You can't
Okay?
please the more you know.
He used to,
I'm a
his
circle in a
father
minute
used
still.
to tell his daughter, look in the well. When she looked in the well, he used to push her in the well. And then put sand, whatever. Why? Get rid of the water.
Well,
But you know,
as an Ishmael,
Islam put a stop to that.
slapped in a quick 20. I respect my family.
Islam put a stop to that.
Respect
Why?
family.
According to the teachings of the Quran, according to the teachings, women are honorable, respectable. Okay, so excuse me.
I said, that's right. She's
Excuse me,
granny.
is that all you can talk about?
The Hebrew Israelite voice. You know, that's right. No, in the man's reading.
About these subjects openly. No, haya.
right. $20
no
for welfare.
factfulness. No, excuse me.
Respect the welfare donation.
Excuse me. Sir. Yes, sir. What I'm talking about is very important, okay? Yeah, what you're talking about.
Why are you wearing
This
pajamas
is
in
Speaker's Corner. It is not, you know what corner. Okay, so we will talk about sex here, okay? Behave yourself. As mothers,
Class welfare.
women are respectable, honorable. As wives, women are respectable, honorable. As daughters, women
Two hecklers in the same place at the same time. It's about to go down, you know.
As sisters, women are respectable, honorable. So ladies and gentlemen, when the Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him started preaching, one he talks about sex, the other one is Mr. Drink and Drunk. Already at this time of the morning, he's almost out.
I said, he's washed up early in the morning, you know.
Anyway, now Islam put a stop to the killing of daughters. Why? In Islam, we have to treat the sons and the daughters nicely, in a good manner. We have to
said, why are you wearing
raise them up.
pajamas?
We have to
I'm mocking the thing harder like it.
They have to provide both.
That's Modi's line as well.
Daughters
Modi needs to man, some man's wearing pajamas. You know.
to dress them, money to feed them, money to educate them. Okay? And they become better human beings when they grow up. Okay? Pardon? heritage. Thank you very much. Okay. This brought a very, thank you very much. Okay. I am prepared for that. Now I'm going to shock you. Okay. I immediately go to excuse me. We are talking about women.
I'm fan them down real quick. Let's get a real quick fan
Give
down.
some time to talk about women. They are very important. Women are very important.
That was a joke, you know.
This gentleman on the left-hand side, he said, what about heritage?
Like hookers.
That's that Barmy drunk, brother.
Of the Quran.
Yes.
And according to the Sunnah,
Yes.
the examples, the sayings, the hadith of our Prophet Muhammad upon it. You know, a woman more than 1400 years ago, when our Quran was being revealed, a woman was given the right to inherit the property
down. Man like
of
Saeed. Close one, man, say early, but
He was going to say something else. He was going
I'm on
to
though,
say
you good.
1400 years ago, when our Quran was being revealed, when Muhammad, peace be upon him, was preaching,
have to come catch Nation of Islam, you know me?
the right to inherit
So the main camera's on
property.
still.
some of them, yeah.
For the first
Especially
time.
the wealthy ones.
But did you know,
These are something to watch while you're on your way up, you
even
know,
a
while you're waiting to come up.
for you,
Real
my
TV.
friend, standing on the right-hand
Got
side,
much up from
in this beautiful country, we know as the United
all the way from
Kingdom.
Sweden, respect for love.
We know as Great Britain. Did you know?
So they've got good
in
content
the
coming from the
year
layout. Me and Mo do. Say nothing.
1881.
Say nothing, that
In
sounds
the
good
year
still.
you talk about education, here's some
See
education
videos,
for you.
videos trying to air out
In
colours
the
still.
year 1881,
Saying drama,
an
drama
act
speaker's corner.
of parliament was passed in the House of Commons, in the British Parliament.
And like big of
The
Valley,
Act of
Valley
Parliament.
Vision gang.
Have a nice
You
day.
saying Valley, what time you
very
forwarding?
much. Thank you. Now, you were
Just the comment saying you want some Valley
lady,
Vision.
You were an example
brother to hurry up
to
and forward,
respect a so-called gentleman like this.
Get some Valley Vision.
Anyway,
Valley.
so in the year 1881, an act of parliament was passed in this country, in the United Kingdom. It is called the Married Women's Act. The Married Women's Act passed in the year 1881. That was the first time in the United
Kate.
Kingdom,
Yeah,
in
it's
Great
addictive.
Britain, in the
Well, man,
West,
used to come in the back
that
of the day, you know.
women were
Not even to film, that's the listen still.
to inherit
I was on this politics thing, I was listening to man like Ishmael Belgrove.
But
Yeah, since
more
man,
than
since man
1400
been coming
years
back
ago,
in this one
when the
Sunday still.
Quran was revealed,
Addictive, yes.
that right was given to the women more than 1400 years ago.
Say nothing, I'm gonna circle real quick.
Islam was so good. Islam was so right. Islam was so nice. Islam was so acceptable. It gave the women
To the nation saying now.
inherit property more than 1400 years ago. But in the United
Gang. Then so nothing else going on. Only 3 men talking right now still. Steve and them's over there on the sideline. Let me go listen to what they're saying. I want to run up on them and they're going to acknowledge me. I don't want them to acknowledge me. I just want to film. Candid. On a sneak up thing. Let me try to sneak
Tougher
up.
on his lawn. You know what? Oh yeah.
He's never done that.
Yes, and I was going to call him that.
maybe
What
there
did
is
you
hope.
say? You just
can't
generalized
believe that.
1.6 billion people?
Because he said it.
He's marginalised himself again. Well, why do you think
Well, no, because
that's what he does.
Before, he called them all Nazis. People in UKIP that were like anti-Islam.
That's amazing.
The likes of Anne-Marie Waters, he
I
publicly
swear,
said she's Nazi.
I heard it.
How long have you been standing there?
That's great. That's great. That's great.
And
sneaked
Steve
up, I
said
sneaked
he
up.
was listening
Like a
to
ninja.
Well, I didn't hear that bit. That must have been after I-
You usually talking about. Usually talking about.
We need a new party that
Not
gonna be
about politics,
tougher
religion,
on
but about his homeland and where he
immigration,
cut the reasons
tougher
why
on
he left.
EU.
Now, what person
and
is he
tougher on
specifically
Islam.
talking about right now?
Oh, Nigel Farage. Apparently he said he wants to form a new party
Is it?
and be tough on
What
Islam,
does
which
he
is
mean?
interesting because he's never spoken
No, but
about
what does
Islam.
he mean when he says tougher on Islam?
I don't know what he means.
The fact that he's saying it is good.
So every Muslim?
Sorry, did you say he's good?
Yes, absolutely.
So every
No,
Muslim?
he's not going to be contemplating.
No, so it's
gas
every
statements.
Muslim, isn't it? Because all
No, he
Muslims
said-
comes under Islam.
What do we think he
No,
means
no.
by that? What
No,
do you think?
no, Steve, we cannot change
It could mean,
the meaning
a
of
vast
words.
spectrum of things, couldn't it? From
Obviously,
Why?
you're seeing the words. What do you think?
No, but why we are redefining words? If somebody, listen,
which word we read the
okay, Nigel Farage said we should be tougher on Islam, yes?
Alright.
So what is Islam? There is only one religion of
I'm
Islam.
more worried
isn't
about the word tough. I'm not.
it? Wait, there is only one religion of Islam, isn't it?
But many interpretations.
No, one religion I'm talking about.
Many
No, I'm not talking about
They're telling the
interpretation.
batches are dead, the live stream's over.
So all the Muslims are under the banner of Islam, isn't it?
I'm like, Craig, well, boy.
But it still doesn't stop them killing each other over their different interpretations.
That's not the point, Steve.
No, you
You're
can't
taking
say
the
they're all.
conversation
You can't
somewhere
say
else.
they're all one collective.
No, I'm not
that
going
you
to talk
can't
about
just
it.
Nah,
think-
Well, if you're
point.
going to take conversation
You said you got
somewhere
a
else,
footage of
I'm
Steve
not
the
gonna
other
talk about
day.
But what do we think he means by that?
That's my
And the Muslim brother
point.
got
When
thumbs up,
he
innit?
says tough on Islam, it means every Muslim
Got a
from
footage of Steve
anywhere in the world,
crazy.
1.6 or
I don't think he
1.8
means
billion.
All
He should have said we should be tougher
He
against.
might mean nothing by it. It might be simply
Extremism.
a media
Bit of
sound
rhetoric.
point because he knows that the UKIP have gained a lot of supporters who are worried with that issue. So therefore, he's just saying something to keep them on board. It may mean absolutely.
Hey, log on to
Well,
Let
you
You
just
Now
said-
for the Hatch
Yeah,
channel.
it might be a political comment.
And the millions of people
You don't better
heard.
get, you don't see him get Tom, but you see the
See,
aftermath.
that's easy
Steve's
for you
opinion
to
on
say, isn't it?
It's funny stuff.
That's easy for you to say
he's
because
not-
you're against or you with him.
But he
With
might
him
be.
or you against him?
No,
I
I'm
said
not going
Steve's
to
the
talk.
wannabe gay guy.
No, we're changing and diverting.
We're not diverting. We're
The
talking about
guy
word
said
tough.
on
We
the
wanna know what
radio,
word tough
the guy said on the radio,
Saying ain't no Steve fans in the comments.
we need a new party. We're going to be tougher on immigration, tougher on Europe.
We know what that means.
Wait, yeah?
We don't know what he means about Muslims.
Okay, if I say tougher on immigration, what does it mean?
Less people getting in.
Well done. It's all about immigration problems, isn't it?
No.
Not any other problem. Yes?
There's lots of problems.
If he
That's just one
said,
of them.
okay, if he said tougher on European
European
Union,
what?
Union,
Right.
the European
Well, it means
Union,
tougher on the negotiations.
on
I see.
this union, he
Yeah.
doesn't mean Africa, Asia, isn't it?
Correct.
When he says tougher on
big up
Islam,
Sabrine.
what does he mean?
We
Tell
don't
me.
know. That's why we're discussing it.
Oh, so when it comes to Islam, you don't know.
This is
But when it comes to other
Steve is a
things,
champion.
The EU
He
is
likes
no,
to
simpler
practice.
that's my
subject,
point.
isn't
When it comes to Islam, you want to divert somewhere
Well, we
else.
know what tough
Sign
means
no
on
wake
immigration.
up,
It
some
means less
French-
people getting in, harder, different
French
rules.
rules.
No, but
more
Which I will
complicated.
he's
get
talking
back
Islam, what does it
crazy
mean?
He doesn't talking about the
it's free
immigrants from
speech in
different
Ireland.
countries. When he says immigration, we collectively
They
wait,
want
wait,
to
wait,
ignore
wait.
it.
We
If you don't like the
collectively
fuck, you
put
just ignore it.
every immigrant in the category of immigration, isn't it?
Correct.
So when he says Islam,
So
we
there's no
put
one
all the
in
Muslims
giving up
in
no one's
category of
personal
Islam,
information.
isn't it?
Yes.
So he said tough on Islam. He didn't say tough on certain Muslims.
Calling someone to
Agreed.
dead or something like
So
that.
he's wrong, isn't he?
Should be right still.
We don't know what he means by tough. What is he
Tough.
saying?
When he says tough,
What do you think he means?
he
Tell us what you
means
think.
he means that we should not allow them to build any more mosques.
No, that's a stretch.
No, because we see those their
actually
supporters.
say that?
No, the supporters of the supporter of Tony Robinson, the
Who
supporter
Nigel
of Nigel
Farage
Farage,
until this point has
the
called
supporter
nuts.
of the supporter
Nigel Farage
of
until this point
UKIP,
has
yeah,
called those people
what they
nuts.
are asking for: no hijab should be banned, mosques should be slowed down, don't build too
Are we
much.
talking about Tommy Robinson now?
No, we are talking about UKIP supporters. Nigel Farage has called for these things, and Tommy Robinson has
Nigel
called.
Farage
When he
has
says,
stressed a little bit about the burqa, hasn't he? In public.
see, now you're
in public
diverting again
buildings. I
somewhere
think
else.
that's
See,
about
I
banks,
want you
that
to
kind of
stick. See, I don't want to. I'm not trying to feel. I'm not here the victim. I'm trying to
just
say
express yourself.
we need to be consistent. If he means by immigration, all the immigrants undercome immigration. When he says,
Well, we've accepted your terms.
that's it then.
But we don't know what he means by tough. That's
Tough
what we're
means stop them.
asking. No, stop them what?
Stop them what?
Why don't you ask them from him?
I don't know.
Because he's
As a
on the
Muslim,
radio,
sure
he's
he'll-
calling
as
him
a-
out.
I'm sure he'll be getting hassled over
He'll be
that.
finishing in 5 minutes. Maybe he'll come down there.
No. You know what I mean.
Good friend
You know what I
Steve.
mean. You know, Steve, what I mean. And you know what I
I've
mean.
never
He'll be
met.
questioned on it.
James,
Let's face
don't-
it.
He
don't
said
sneak.
slow down the building of
You
mosques.
know when he says tough, what does it mean?
Who knows? It can mean all manner
It's a
of...
loaded, tough word. It's a loaded word, trust me.
Saudis do not allow even their own Muslim brothers without tough visa conditions.
No, we are talking about here, sir. We live in Britain.
So you are living in Britain and we have you on my beginning. But
That's the next speaker, please.
no, you are not. You seem to be very
The people them saying, when we to bounce on this conversation,
Was I angry
stay here
with
forever.
you? Was I angry with you, sir? What was I angry with you? You just put something on me that I wasn't, sir.
He wasn't
If
angry.
I was angry on you, if I was angry on you, I apologize. I
apologize if I have been wrong. But let us be
That was two
realistic.
apologies. Then
How would you feel
Yes.
if it was your
do you think?
birth home? I mean, not only birth home,
I
it
think
is your
it's a
native country.
He's changing his position.
And people who are coming here and influencing
They're
your
causing us
life
such a
and
backlash.
Maybe he has had a
influencing
point of
everything
realisation
according to their taste. They want
agrees
to
with Gerard
create
that
Sharia,
it's
they
actually
want to
could
create
be a
this, they want to
vote-winning-
create as many mosques as
Well, we're talking about
possible.
Sharia,
They
yeah.
want to
That's
do
what we-
conversion.
Maybe
My
that's what
friend,
we started
how would you feel that you are being robbed
That's
in
probably
your
what he's... If you could now finish it into something.
Okay.
Sharia.
The gentleman said that if you live in a different country, or let's say Saudi Arabia, they don't allow this, they don't allow that, they don't allow that. Mr. James, Mr. Steve, and I'm really sorry, I forgot your name,
Preston.
brother. Preston. We were talking about this country, how we are free, how we can talk to each other, how we can express our feelings. And suddenly the man came and brought Saudi Arabia. It has nothing to do with me. I live in England.
We are talking about Islam.
No, we are talking about this country. Were we talking about Nigel Farage, Brexit? Or we already...
Nigel Farage, this
Come on,
country.
man. You were not
Being
in the
tough on Islam.
conversation. See, again, things comes back to Islam and Muslims. If Saudi is doing
Well, you
something
did
wrong,
raise the point
it's
that you
Saudi.
You did raise
What's
that
the point
point.
that you raised that Nigel allegedly said on the radio?
No. My point was we were talking about here about Nigel Farage. We were not talking about the laws and regulations of Saudi Arabia.
Agreed. We agree with you, man. We're on your side.
Yes.
Let's talk
So
about
let's
Nigel Farage.
let's talk about Nigel Farage.
James just made the point that maybe what he might mean, who knows what he means, but maybe what he means about being tough on Islam, maybe dealing with Sharia.
That would be my guess.
What do you mean by Sharia? When you say that?
Separation, having separate laws.
Sharia courts,
Sharia courts,
the increasing creep of Sharia process and
Okay,
law within
if-
British society.
What do you think about that? One law for everyone?
Yeah, because this is a
So no Sharia court.
no, because
Maybe that's what Nigel
Wait a second. Without defining what Sharia is first, this discussion becomes really
I'm going
problematic.
to say that.
And the second thing is, a lot of Sharia is about personally and voluntary stuff. So, for example, Islam says you should give a certain amount of money to charity. It's entirely voluntary, but that's a part of Sharia.
Okay, you're
we-
right.
we'd
So
have no
maybe
problem
the,
with
just
that.
using the overriding type word.
No,
Sharia
I
isn't enough.
think
It needs to be more specific.
in the Western world.
So I think what you're thinking about is things like, chopping off people's hands if they steal.
No.
I'm not aware that's
Actually, we're
going
not.
on in Britain, so no.
Exactly. So if those things are not happening,
But are there not numerous Sharia courts that many people, women, are going to around divorce, for example?
only because
Or even getting married where they have no legal standing because they're not going through the proper marriage process.
No, they are Steve. They are.
Some of them think they're married and they're not. They don't even have any legal protection that marriage would give them if it was proper. registered.
So let's think about that.
Those sorts of things.
So let's think about that. First of all, if there are people are being lied to, that's obviously bad. Right, so if somebody thinks they're getting married and they're not legally getting married, that's clearly awful. Second thing is, sometimes
What power are you discussing?
legal power. They have
But they-
zero
it doesn't
It's
legal
not
power.
just about legal power.
Well, of course.
is it?
So
If I'm an abused woman and I'm trying to get out of that abusive marriage,
Of course.
and I'm told whether it's got any legal reality
Yeah,
whatsoever,
yeah.
it's not just about legality.
But that happens in every type
That's
of
not an
culture.
excuse
No,
to
no,
accept
no.
it.
So let's think about
don't have a legal or a pseudo-legal entity in every society, in every culture that brainwashes some people to think that, you know, that has meaning.
So let's think about
that doesn't happen across the board.
Abuse, right? Abusive relationship.
Abuse happens.
So, and that involves brainwashing, it involves manipulation, it involves
something that puts
lying
itself up
to
as a
people.
Sharia court. Not every cultural society has anything approaching.
So I agree that the court is misleading.
Not the term, the actual buildings and the people in those
Practices,
buildings.
what goes on
the
in
people
them.
employed to work in those buildings.
Muslims should have the right to set up advisory bodies that people can go to
because we mentioned
have advice given to them about how best to follow their particular religion. And if you're saying that Muslims in particular have no right to do that,
We talk about something, we go somewhere else.
It depends.
Stick to the point.
It depends.
Don't worry.
I would discriminate against something if it increases women's protection from abusive husbands. I would discriminate.
Forever.
And I'm not worried about ancient mythological scriptural nonsense. What's more important to me is stopping women being abused, or anyone being abused. So you know, FCUK,
Do you agree no separate
the
courts?
scriptural.
No separate
advisory courts are fine. There's nothing wrong with advisory courts.
Why is it called a court?
Well, I agree. You wouldn't call it a court.
The fact that it's got the word court in its title tells you something,
No, that's
doesn't
semantics.
it? No, it's not.
Of course
No,
it's
it's not.
semantic. It is semantic.
My employer provides me with an employee assistance program, a telephone helpline that I can phone up for independent confidential advice. It would never call itself a court.
My university has student courts where people can go to get complaints against lecturers.
They're called
right?
courts.
Yeah, they're called courts. It's just that, of course they are.
Well, no, it's not on a court. It's not on a court.
It does happen, right? You have people's courts, you have Judge Judy in America, you have advisory courts.
Rinder, you have, I mean...
Yeah, of course.
They are actually judges.
And Tottenham Court Road as well.
Exactly. So just because they call themselves courts, you say no, that's
And they are the minority. And they are the minority. In generally speaking,
That's the relevant point.
No,
The democratically, do we want it? That's the relevant point.
Do we have the creep of laws from a foreign culture
That's not happening.
that sometimes
It's
are...
not happening.
Oh, really? So
There's no
the
creep.
number of Sharia courts, that's gone down,
power.
is it?
Okay.
They have no legal
It's
power.
not
How is it
about
free?
legal
about
power.
Then what kind
It's
of
about
creep?
influence, exactly.
There is no influence from Sharia court and the actual legal court system.
Well, that's
Zero.
not true. Look at halal slaughter. Look at halal slaughter
Okay,
and
what about
kosher
it?
slaughter.
What about
Let's
it?
throw in kosher just so you
What
don't
about
know
it? What
things
about it? What about it?
I thought it's a
Because
freedom of religion.
there has been a British law that's
Freedom
gone through
of
the normal
religion, what happened?
That's gone through the
We
normal.
claim that.
It's gone through the normal process that all legislation goes through. That this country, and let's not get into whether the science of it, but the scientific and the democratic
wrong with
process
halal and
has
kosher?
led to a certain law that's
What is
to
wrong
do
with
with
kosher?
animal welfare. That's to do with animal welfare and has reached a conclusion,
what is wrong
as
with
any legal
halal and
process.
kosher?
So there is a
somebody wants to
conclusion of
eat
how we
kosher.
slaughter our animals in this country. But what has changed? Two religions, Judaism and Islam, has come along and say, oh, hang on a minute, that British law, you know, we can't comply with it. So what does Britain do? It rolls over and makes exceptions for those. Even though it's gone through that due process of this is our position on animal slaughter,
Muslims say
but
if
we
you
roll
don't find
over for
halal,
no
go
other
eat
reason
and eat
other than there are
the
two religions that says we don't want to do it like that, we want to do it like this, and we roll over. So there's a precise example of how religion, Sharia, whatever you want to call it, affects our legal system. Because we roll over, we're so soft and pathetic. We roll over and ignore the law.
I've listened to you.
Let's not get into whether halal's good or not. We're talking about the legality.
Halal is good. Kosher is good.
The first thing was, the question was whether or not Sharia courts have made that more likely. I don't think that's true. Sharia courts have made that rolling over capitulation more likely. Sharia courts have not made that more likely.
Yeah, tip of the iceberg.
The second thing would be, I can agree with you
It does
that
make
those
it more
things
likely.
shouldn't have been
Throwing
capitulated.
words, then
It's not worth
Right, so we're absolutely agreeing with that. Because there should be one law for all, shouldn't there? I don't think we're agreeing with that.
Courts don't influence those legal decisions. That was about lobbying to have in Parliament. Right? So the fact that there are things like there are powerful
God has
Muslim
given
groups
us one
which can
hand
lock
to
in
play it.
politicians to get this kind of influence done. That's not to do with Sharia courts.
And that might be precisely connected with the formation of Sharia courts, but it's the same issue, isn't it? The Islamisation of our culture, our society, our
what do you
laws.
mean is
Well, by the halal slaughter, by kosher slaughter.
Example, Steve, go. What are we?
What I mean by it is exactly the example that I just gave. And you've agreed that we shouldn't capitulate and we should have one law for all. That's a very strong principle.
No Sharia court. Turn them down.
I said that it is consistent to be in a position where you say, I am a Muslim, but I also don't think that should happen. That's a consistent position to take, right? The other part, the flip side of it is, even if you agree that that capitulation shouldn't have happened, to characterise that as the creeping Sharia law is wrong.
Why?
Because if you don't want to have halal meat, you can avoid it. That's the first thing.
You can't. Let's talk about that. You cannot, because there is wayside, because there is no law that says halal slaughtered meat has to be labelled as such. So therefore, me as a consumer have no knowledge whether I'm going into Tesco's and whether that chicken is halal or not. That's again another nonsense.
But is it our wallet at all?
And you know, there are people of faith, Sikhs for example, that their faith say they should.
I agree.
And therefore we don't. And most supermarkets in this country do not label it, and it's an economic reason for the abattoirs that they're doing a lot of halal slaughter, and not even for the Muslim market.
You know,
and that's outrageous. So your point was actually wrong. I don't have the power. And also, my son went to a school where there was a 100% halal menu, so he had no choice to not eat halal meat. So there's two examples where we don't have a say in whether we are personally eating halal or not.
I agree with that.
And that's two examples of the Islamisation that I'm talking about. That you don't want to accept. The
thing is this, even if you're in a situation where you have no option, it does not mean that there's an Islamisation happening. Because to be a Muslim is
Can you explain why that's what you just said there is the case?
Because to be a Muslim is not to do certain practices. It's a belief system.
Separation.
So
to do halal stuff and not haram stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Want to know about everything?
You don't have to treat it that way. Just stop it.
Anyway, carry on with your point.
Everyone has speaker's corner.
Yes, that's what you're
Try to get diverse.
It's a crazy thing to do. Why would you do it?
The vast majority of the time you can avoid it, but there are certain cases where you can't, and that's bad, and there should be labels.
Most British supermarket chains do not label it. So you can't say the vast majority it's not relevant. Because I'd say the vast majority in terms of British supermarket chains, so the vast majority are not labelling it. So you're getting your majority minority.
Outside the supermarket. And should say, listen,
many, not insignificant. Look at Subways, look at KFCs, look how many major chains, the vast majority of them, you know, they may have a little thing hidden in the front window, but it is the majority of supermarkets. I have been led to believe in before that apart from Morrison's and Waitrose, I think it was, none of the other supermarkets give guarantees that you're not buying halal meat. And Tesco's, which is the biggest supermarket, certainly. You've got no guarantee that when you buy chicken off the shelves in Tesco's that it's not halal. No guarantee whatsoever.
But let's put it this way, right?
And Tesco's is the biggest supermarket chain.
Halal meat is more expensive.
Do we?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
It's a longer
Kosher and halal is
So
expensive.
there is
Just
no...
saying that it's more expensive.
Okay.
I live in an area where there are lots of halal sheets. It's dirt cheap.
I can explain
You
why
get a whole bag of chicken
why
wings.
it's more expensive.
It's not. I don't think it's not.
It's a
Look
slower
at fried
process.
chicken shops. They're dirt cheap as
Steve.
It's a slower
Cheap as
process.
cheap.
It's a slower process.
No, it's more expensive.
And it requires more manpower.
I don't think there's any evidence to suggest that it's more expensive. When you buy it at the end in the fried chicken shop in the supermarket, not more
if it
expensive.
requires more steps to produce
It might
halal
do,
meat,
but the end result is not more expensive. I guess it's economies of scale because they're doing so much of it
I don't
halal.
understand why the process is relevant to the argument.
because if it's more expensive, it's very unlikely that an organisation like Tesco would preferentially buy halal.
Why do we have allowed products?
So why do they? Why do they?
It's got nothing to do
It's
with
the economics of the abattoir. It's the economics of the abattoir.
Your claim was that they don't label it.
That's what that's
Say, can I ask a
I
question?
can admit that's true, and still say I don't think halal that Tesco's actually doing it.
Steve, can I ask you a question?
Can I ask a question?
Steve,
Can I ask a question?
have it because it was,
Is your meeting?
that's it.
Can I ask a question?
If it meets British health and safety standards, why do you care if it's halal or not?
Because there are animal welfare considerations, which is, I don't know if you were here when we were saying that the British law, before it capitulated to Islam and to Judaism, agreed that because of animal welfare, we have very tight rules on animal slaughter. But we capitulated solely for Jews and for Muslims
You can maintain
who don't meet those animal welfare standards.
But you have a choice, Steve.
We're going round in circles now. I don't have a choice.
That's the choice.
My son didn't have a choice at school. I don't have a choice when I go to Tesco's because it's not labelled. We've established that. So let's not go back to that.
If when a Muslim buys meat,
no, that's what I'm saying.
Brother.
The other thing I was going to say is, I'm not 100% certain that your earlier claim is actually true.
Which one is that?
That the British government did capitulate to Muslims and lowered health and safety standards. I don't know if that's actually
about health and safety standards.
Or animal welfare standards. I don't think that's actually true.
But then you didn't provide any evidence for saying that halal, the process of halal is cheaper. You didn't provide any evidence.
I did provide evidence. My evidence is it requires extra manpower because it requires extra processes to be undergone. By definition, if you're going to make halal meat, you're adding extra processes to the meat.
But that's your opinion.
That's not an opinion. It's by definition. Halal has certain requirements. To meet those requirements requires manpower. Therefore, it's much more expensive.
And then how do you British farmers kill animals? Because you're saying their process is
cheaper.
Yeah. What is the process?
They use a stun gun.
So you take it.
I'm trying to understand how. Okay, and then what do the Muslims do?
They need to drain the blood. That's the extra step that ordinary abattoirs do not do.
And that one extra step, you're saying...
Second extra step, prayer has to be said at the time of slaughter.
Two means stay, one means
so there's two extra steps. One, drain the blood. Second, prayer.
And because they drain the blood, that makes no sense.
Two means stay.
Not much more expensive, just more expensive. Even if it's a little bit more expensive, it's always going to be beneficial to go for the cheaper option.
What if we invent a religion?
So there is no way.
Facts back up that point.
Say no, man, saying bounce.
What are the cost of chicken and fried chicken shops, the majority of which are halal?
Number clock one. Let me bounce. Alright, Nation of Islam over here. I ain't gonna go over to them straight away because my main camera's over there, so let me go and check it first more. Because the sun's coming out a bit more and to adjust some settings. It's gonna be looking bleached out right now.
None of them could exist.
You got black to it.
Unless this house first existed.
Hey Rajiv, I'll go on. You said you're loving it, yeah? You're loving the nation. Go on. I'll go on for the good. Woo! Last year.
Spicy, man. There's some comments in that.
Yeah, it was getting a bit tedious in the comment section.
Yeah. Oh, the last video you got.
Yeah. Everyone getting triggered in now, man. It's just a bit...
How you doing? I'm good, man. I've come to check up on the camera still.
We don't drink in the Nation of Islam.
You can ask some questions.
We don't believe in swearing in the Nation of Islam. We don't even swear, to the best of our ability. I must admit, sometimes when I observe some of these people on these roads and their road rage mentality, sometimes I feel the red mist descending over my eyes, and sometimes a little expletive will come up and I will try to hold it down. I've got to be real, I've got to tell you the truth. But generally, we don't smoke, we don't drink, and we are very respectful of the females in the society.
Don't smoke, don't drink.
We don't believe in grabbing hold of women and shaking their hands necessarily. But if a sister approaches us and she extends her hand, then we won't scorn her as if she's dirty or something like that. We might shake her hand. But generally, we will not approach a female to hug or to shake the hand, because we don't believe that men should do that. We believe that she is sacred and she should be respected, because she is not the woman of man, she's the woman of God.
Like Nation of
that's how we
come down there, fam. I ain't seen no athletes, far challenging there.
Thank you very much.
Ask some questions.
I'm going to come to you, sir. Yes, sir.
Shia uncle in the building. See name again? Sadiq.
And that's actually...
Man's asking about the Wahhabis.
What's the problem for every Muslim and every non-Muslim? What do you think about Wahhabism? Is that extremism? Is that faith being made by British intelligence agencies? What do you think about it?
The question from the gentleman on the right, he's asking about the so-called Wahhabist Muslims. Some people will also talk about the Salafis. Be asking, what do we think about the Wahhabist Muslims? Are they created for Islam? Our understanding is that this man, whose name is now used, Wahhab, this man lived a certain time ago, and he was one of those scholars who made an interpretation of the revelation given to Muhammad, peace be upon him, and he basically created his own understanding of Islam, and many, in particular in Saudi Arabia, have followed his particular doctrine, his idea of what pure Islam is, and the Salafis are very similar. They have also followed along that.
They love just in gang, you know. G-Circus.
You know,
G-Circus thugs were exposed for the violence, sexist behavior, misogynistic pigs.
Sunni,
misogynistic pigs.
Shia, Wahhabism. We don't believe in any of these offshoots of what Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught Islam. He didn't create Bahrain or Saudi or any of these Emirates, any of these borders. These were drawn by Britain and Germany and France in the Middle East to divide up the Islamic Ummah and to create friction and war between Muslims. The Wahhabists, many of them are very, very arrogant. They will say that if you don't believe like them, you are an apostate. And many of them are very violent towards other Muslims that don't believe like they believe. But this was predicted by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He said, 3 generations after me shall not be of me. It didn't even take 3 generations for deviation from the Sirat al-Mustaqim. Within the first Caliph, Abu Bakr, was the only one who literally lived out his life and died of natural causes. After that, the next 4, including Ali, was murdered because they went to war with one another over disagreements, envy and jealousy, over their misunderstanding of what the Prophet, the clear teaching that the Prophet had given. And so these
so-called... My camera's filming this, I'm a bounce though. We'll see what else is happening. One time I always come in and walk past the spreader still. Let me see what you're saying. Keep some diversity. Today I'm gonna try up the diversity of videos what man capture, you get me? I'm gonna make a conscious effort to try to diversify.
Okay? Because many people, to understand fascism, you must understand how money, understand the financial system. Listen guys, forget it. Alright? Industry. That's why, I mean, anyway, to put it blunt, corporations and banks, I was backing Hitler. They're successful now in China, Latin America, isn't it? Because Hitler was the fall guy, isn't it? The same banks that backed Hitler were the same banks that backed Obama to get rid of Libya. So big business. Okay? But people are very backward. People are stupid. And you can't tell them they're stupid. Right? Because if you're stupid, you wouldn't know you're stupid. You know, there's no hope. Okay? I mean, the people that command, they go to the best school. They understand all this nonsense. That's why they're laughing their heads off. Isn't it? They win hands down. Because if you are ignorant, it's worse than being blind. Education, education, education. Learn, or die.
Speaking to Sabrine, so the park's overrun with black convicts. They bully other black men who want violence.
So this was the problem. Fascism wins.
Bro, what you say?
I'll go on, fam.
Left up, yeah?
I know, bro. Hey, what did you
going in, mate?
Did you email me?
Yeah. I made a new email, you know.
I see it. I didn't email back. I wasn't sure, you get me? I see now, man. I'm going to hear a bit. I'm going to give the details. Come on, man. I'm going to give you the details still. I told you to send your numbers up on page, man. You get me?
My number as well?
Yeah, I'll the page, man, fam. One man's on the road and all of that. To roll out, you get me?
It's not even as developed as nationalism.
You said you ain't going to work today?
If the people can't deal with racism, there is no way, no how they can deal with nationalism. And if they can't deal with nationalism,
they're wilding in the comments still.
They're wilding out.
Yeah, they're decent.
You're talking about the hierarchy. You're talking about the Tower of Babel.
Always that Asian boy.
Deal with a basement flat.
Ah, yeah, that's
why
nice.
You want to go to Trump Tower?
Yeah, that man's with T still. You know, unless you not for a hack. You know that guy? Somebody
yeah,
guy.
Come on. Big up. That's my big bro, you know.
Yeah.
Big up, man.
Any questions?
Oh, they're violent. It's out of bag for What is that?
It's a bag still.
No, it's a bag.
Is that a bug? Yeah. No, I don't know, he might have modified it. He might have modified it to carry your shit still.
No, sir. Satan doesn't go to school. Satan was too smart not to be touched.
What you just saying in the comments? You want me to bounce from there or you want me to stay here?
We only tests and
give me a 1 to stay, 2 to bounce. Come on, don't play number 2, you get me?
Yeah, I know, but it's amusement.
I like this. I like his cape.
Come we go edge,
2 bounce. He say right up on the line, don't edge you. 2 bounce. Everyone wants to bounce though. Now you see 1-1 to stay.
Terror is about the unknown.
Terrorist has no territory.
Alright? Yeah. It's popping off still.
Even though, you know, there's the same one when he was talking about how kids grow up.
You in the council estate.
My boy watched that, you know. My boy, I was shocked. So I told him watch some videos. He said, "I'll watch someone where the guy was talking like a relate to it." I was like, "It must be the same then, isn't it?" The same thing went opposite.
I rate Hussein still.
Yeah, he went in and
I try to diss him in the comments sometimes still, but the videos ain't for them, you get me? But the one them who's living it, the people them who's living it, they know what he's talking about, you get me? I'm always there early, I'll be there soon. Let's unite for Haxa, it's coming down soon.
Yes, bro.
Come down, fam, we here, blood. Creep shot some sexy girls, fam.
You know, roasting it.
Alright? Been there already still. But they ain't nothing else popping off, you know, it's an early setting still. I might lock you off, man.
It's beautiful. Oh yeah. Islam is so nice. In Islam, no abortion. Let the children come in this world. Let the children. Well, they let you. There was no abortion when you was here. But other people, you don't want that.
My parents made a mistake.
Oh, what? Look at the bloody
I said his parents made a mistake, you know.
How can you blame your parents? Is that the way you treat your parents?
That is the way you are treating me as if I was a mistake.
No, you make mistakes. Why? Because I'm trying to speak. And you know what? Oh, yeah, anyway, why do we need okay, if you don't like children, don't get married. We Muslims, we like children, we will get married, and what will happen? When you become less and less, we will become more and more. What did you say, Saudi children?
Yes, they are okay.
Why you racist?
Yeah, because
You do that, show you with the glasses. So you say, I'm a more time, ain't even you, you're like a big man still. More time you just stand up. He screams a lot of walk by. He screams a lot of walk by next to Uncle Man that you so he's always still.
Yeah, thank guys.
There are Pakistanis of Arab descent. There are Pakistanis of...
And my man's drying now.
There are Pakistanis of one...
Supposed to get something to drink still. Early thing. You hide him. Trying to hide for. Sometimes he jumps in the camera, sometimes he don't.
Yeah, I see him, man, in the corner sometimes. How you doing? You're early today, bro, man.
Yeah, oh, by the way, that video was really good.
Which one?
The Fazil, the WC What's up, bro?
It's just quiet today, isn't it? That's an age.
I'm going Sister Lexi.
But bro, it's super early.
Everyone's early.
Good. Cybertron, can I ask you a question? You just did, you know? Yeah, I'll move to man still. I got the security unlocked, you get me? My man ain't got no crowd anymore, mad thing. You seen rolling up your beefy? Raj, I will be there soon, so watch out.
Alright, Raj.
Yeah, see you with next
no,
speaker,
man.
please.
Nice sessions, man.
Nice sessions. Charger today, you know, fam. Nice sessions.
Peak, yeah?
It's gonna pop off today, for real, for real.
Really? Are they doing the G-circle?
Nah, it's the last Sunday, innit? Every month. Where is it? The last Sunday? I don't know. I don't think so. If enough money will come through with this day. Yeah. I'm gonna bounce, I'm gonna cut out still. If something pops off, I'll start filming live stream again. Yeah. Speaker's corner, early setting.
Big up, man.
Man slapped him. Big up Isaac, not Ishmael was off for slapping him in $20.
What? Come on.
$20. I don't know, we'll buy a drink real quick.
Cyrac, man. Cyrac. Big up Cyrac, man.
Cyrac. Rest of COE. CEO. T-shirts, Leon. My thing.
Where's the teeth?
I'm wearing my tee now, you know. I'm wearing my tee now still. I'm sleeping though. My bedroom is supposed to bring them for me still. He ain't. And then they come through today still. I'm gonna link him during the week, innit? So, yeah. And that's still, cause I said something like that last week, but yeah. Hello?